term, we have the highest student-teacher ratio in Southern Oregon. I'd like to see our staffing level get back to the 2011, 2012 full-time employees. But most important thing I'd like to see in short term is safety first for our students riding school buses. We have a bus depreciation fund that we're not using, and so I'd like to put that on the agenda for this next meeting, that we purchase school buses.
Okay, thank you. And so that brings us to the third question. Given the lack of reliable state funding for schools, what should the district do to ensure continued financial stability for not only Eagle Point schools, but all surrounding schools in the district? Mr. Leader?
Well, I'd like to see the classroom as a priority in all of the budget decisions. Keep a 5 to 10% carryover as required by board policy. And I'd like to cut back on our wasteful spending.
Thank you. Mr. Grissom?
We passed a policy of probably about 4 years or 5 years ago to maintain a 5 to 10% carryover in our budget. So we're getting $35 million a year, then we try to organize our budget so that we use everything up to 5 to 10%, so that we have a little reserve for situations where we might need some for economic downturns and so forth. We can pick up, we can write those times out, and then we can also smooth out some of the rough areas. And also, in the past, we've never hardly had enough carryover, and sometimes we'll have a HVAC system go out or something like that. You need to make those purchases right away. Anyways, continue with that 5 to 10% carryover like we've been doing, and that's about as good as we can do, because the funding we get from the state is kind of out of our hands. They decide what we get, and so we just need to be very careful with how we spend money and make sure that we're spending it wisely. As far as there being wasteful spending, I haven't seen any wasteful spending. Everything that we've been doing, all these projects are stuff that are overdue. These roofing projects have some of the lumber that's under the roofs are just completely rotten. I mean, these projects should have been done 15 years ago, and these HVAC systems, some of them are very old, and the maintenance guys have to, they have problems with computers on and all kinds of stuff. I mean, all of our stuff that we're doing is stuff that is not wasteful. It's very important stuff that needs to be done. So,
Thank you. Mr. Hodges?
Well, I think we really just need to keep on the course we're on. I think the carryover or rainy day fund, if you will, has worked out really well for us. I think people need to remember that we haven't given up one school day. That's phenomenal. Nobody else in Southern Oregon can say that. So as far as our budgeting process and how we're spending our money, I gotta believe we're doing a great job.
Thank you. And Mr. Meeker?
As a school board member, it's our responsibility to provide oversight on how resources are allocated and be able to make the hard choices. Maintaining a healthy rainy day fund is critical to our long-term stability. I applaud the administration's efforts the last several years, but I think we've made some wrong sacrifices in getting to where we are now at the costs of students. Now I worry that we might be spending too much too soon, and we're not making sufficient efforts to be transparent or to keep the parents and community members informed of what the plans are before the decisions are actually made. The $1 million transfer is a good weathered this economic storm, but we're not really out of the woods yet. Have no idea what the future holds. In this valley, our industries are changing, our industries are diminishing, and we've got to be prepared for continued cutbacks from state sources. I don't know if the district has any kind of a program to seek endowment funds from community members. Colleges, university, private and parochial schools have all got development directors whose job it is to find new funding sources. And looking at individuals, alumnus, who might be willing to put Eagle Point School District or a particular school in their will. Churches do this all the time. It's a creative way to help balance our budget, and maybe this is an idea whose time has come. School boards and superintendents have to keep our legislatures informed of our barriers to educating the kids. We've got to do a better job of telling our story and not just being braggarts about what we did this month. We've got to be able to tell the story, and that means communicating to the community using all the resources that we have available. I think the Independent could be used a lot better to tell the story of what's going on in the Eagle Point school districts and to elicit assistance from the parent community. In my 30 years of government experience and observation, it's taught me that every city, county, municipal, state agency thinks that their funding is more important than the next. So by communicating to our legislatures and working together as a team within the Southern Oregon school districts, we might do a better job of getting those legislators to look at our students.
Thank you. And Ms. Mahato.
Thank you. We all know that our economy has suffered greatly over the past several years. Most of us have felt the economy of our own pocketbooks affected. But as a school district or any other organization, even big corporations, you have a finite amount of money to work with. It has its limits. So what do you do when you start reaching the limits on your checkbook? When it starts to look like you're almost getting there. You start pulling back and you start saving money, and you save them for a rainy day. And you try to make sure that you always have enough money in reserve for when things don't go so well. And I think that our district has really done a commendable job to achieve that goal. And I'm really optimistic when I think about some of the things that the district is able to do right now. So how can we ensure our financial stability? Right now, we all know that PERS spending takes a really big chunk of our budget. I don't know if some of you were at Mr. Whitman's budget presentations that he made, but I think PERS is about 20%. Am I close on that? Or not PERS, but like retirement. And then our staff salaries are around 60%. That's 80%. That's a lot of money. And those two items, PERS is legislated. You can't really get by without that. Where else would we cut? Would we cut our staff salaries? We don't want to do that. We don't want to cut teachers. Our kids would suffer, and we wouldn't be able to do the mission that we're here to do, to take care of the kids. So we have to realize that sometimes we have to tighten our budgets, or tighten our belts, or our budgets, or both. And sometimes things that are dearest to our hearts are going to have to maybe be scaled back in the meantime until brighter financial times. Most of us in education know that during tough economic times, electives suffer. The school that I taught, they told the teachers that taught electives, you better start advertising because you got to get enough kids to keep your program going. Things like art, band, music, they're really important. Some of those things are what keep kids in school. And to me, it's just really important that we try to do our best to keep those programs going.
Thank you. Mr. Salem.
During my time on the budget committee, we went through some of the drawdowns. One of the things we discussed was the idea of sense. The other things that we discussed were scaling back positions, and I think we decided that you did a 5% cut across the board. Is that the correct, the last cutback? Was it 5?
No, it's a couple of things.
Yeah, but it was a few times back, but it was when I was on that. One of the things I see as a big problem with the way we do things is we do stuff like that. We do a 5% across the board cut. Now, if I own a ditch digging business and I've got 50 ditch diggers and I've got 5 people who manage them, and I do a 5% across the board cut, basically I get 5% less ditch because I took out the people who are digging the ditches. And facts are, if I've got a company, I'm not going to take away the people that produce. So when we do across the board cuts, we affect the people who produce, the people in the classroom. When we do cuts, we need to look at areas outside of the classroom to cut. I'm tired of us cutting teachers. We need to keep the teachers in the classroom because we all agree they're the front line. They're the people who make the difference to these kids. It's not the people in the administrative offices. It's not the people in technology. It's not the people, now they all help and they all assist. I'm not saying that they're not valuable, but when we get into tough economic times, that's not the time to start cutting back teachers. So when I look at this and I'm saying, you know,